The galactic Concord chamber hung in the cold dark between stars, a vast ring of polished obsidian and humming alloy that turned slowly around a core of captured sunlight. Inside, representatives from 17 species sat in tiered arcs, their forms as varied as the worlds they came from. Some were tall and slender, wrapped in living silk that shifted with their moods. Others were hunched and armored, breathing through vents in their carapaces. A few floated in nutrient spheres, their thoughts transmitted through pulses of light. All of them watched the center of the chamber where a single human woman stood alone. Her name was Claire Voss. She wore no armor, no insignia, only a plain gray suit that had seen better days. Her dark hair was pulled back, her face calm, her eyes steady. She did not fidget. She did not look away. She simply waited as if she had been expecting this moment for a long time. The vote had been called 3 cycles ago. At first it was just whispers, rumors that Earth had lied during the Treaty of Sirius, that human scientists had hidden weapons beneath the ice of Europa, that their so-called peace envoys were spies mapping the weak points of every Allied fleet. Then came the intercepted signals, the strange silence from Mars orbit, the sudden disappearance of 3 scout ships near the Helios border. Suspicion hardened into accusation. Accusation became demand. And now here they were. The High Arbiter of the Zinthari rose. Its body was made of interlocking crystal plates that chimed softly as it moved. Its voice came not from a mouth but from a resonator embedded in its chest, smooth and toneless. "Claire Voss of Earth," the Arbiter said, "you stand accused of deception, subterfuge, and endangering the stability of the galactic Concord. You have denied these charges. Yet the evidence is overwhelming. Your species refuses to share its full technological archives. Your military movements are unlogged. Your diplomats speak in riddles. And you alone, have access to the Black Vault beneath Antarctica, a sight no outsider has ever seen." Claire did not flinch. She had heard it all before. The Arbiter continued. "We cannot execute you. The Treaty of First Contact forbids harm to accredited envoys. We cannot imprison you under one authority. Too many fear what Earth might do in retaliation. So we have chosen another path." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some species leaned forward, others recoiled. "You will be placed under joint custody," the Arbiter announced. "Each of the 17 signatory species will hold you for 1 standard cycle. You will be moved without warning. Your communications will be severed. Your movements restricted. No single faction will control you, but all will watch. This is the only way to ensure balance." Claire finally spoke. Her voice was quiet but clear, cutting through the hum of the chamber like a blade through fog. "You think this is balance?" she said, "but it is fear dressed as fairness. You are not protecting the Concord. You are protecting yourselves from what you do not understand." The Varelian delegate hissed, its feathered crest flaring. "Silence, human. Your words are poison." She turned to face it, calm as still water. "Then poison must be what you fear most." The vote was unanimous. Not one species abstained. Even the gentle Lumari, who once called humans kindred spirits, lowered their bioluminescent tendrils in sorrow and pressed the consent glyph. The decision was sealed. Guards came then. Tall Crothax warriors with exoskeletons of black chitin, their claws clicking against the floor. They did not touch her. They did not need to. Claire walked between them without resistance, her hands empty, her expression unreadable. They led her through winding corridors lit by pulsing veins of blue energy. The walls seemed to breathe. The air smelled of ozone and something faintly organic like wet stone after rain. She passed observation ports where faces watched her, some curious, some hostile, some afraid. She met none of their eyes. Her first holding cell was aboard the Zinthari vessel, a ship shaped like a coiled serpent made of glass and light. The room was circular with no corners, no sharp edges. The floor was warm to the touch. A single viewport showed the endless black, dotted with distant stars. There was no bed, no chair, only a smooth depression in the floor where she could sit or lie. The door sealed behind her with a soft sigh. Silence followed. For 3 hours, Claire sat perfectly still. Then from the shadows near the ceiling, something moved. It was small at first, no bigger than a house cat. Its body sleek and dark, its scales shimmering like oil on water. It dropped silently to the floor and padded toward her on 4 delicate limbs. Its eyes were large, golden, and slit like a cat's, but they held an intelligence far beyond any animal. Wings folded tight against its back twitched once. "Kale," she whispered. The creature nuzzled her hand. She ran her fingers along its jaw, feeling the faint vibration of its purr, a sound that resonated not in air but in bone. "You should not be here," she said. "They have scanners, motion detectors, thought filters." Kale tilted its head as if amused. Then it shimmered, its outline blurring like smoke in wind. For a moment it seemed to vanish entirely. Then it reappeared solid once more. Claire smiled faintly. "Of course, they cannot see what does not reflect." Kale was not an ordinary dragon. It was not even truly a dragon in the old Earth sense. It was something older. Something Earth had found buried deep beneath the ice, dormant for millions of years. A bioengineered sentinel, perhaps. Or a weapon, or both. The scientists had argued for months. But Claire had known from the first moment she saw it in the lab. This creature chose her. Not the other way around. She had smuggled it out during the evacuation of Mars, hidden it in the diplomatic shuttle. And now, even here in the heart of alien territory, it remained unseen, unheard, unknown. "You are my shadow," she murmured, "and shadows do not need permission to exist." Outside, a Zenthari guard passed by the viewport. Its crystalline form glowed faintly as it scanned the room with passive sensors. It saw nothing unusual, just the human, sitting alone staring at the stars. What they did not know was that Claire was not waiting for rescue. She was not planning escape. She was watching, listening, counting. Each species that held her would reveal something. Through their questions, their fears, their mistakes. The Varelians would boast of their surveillance nets. The Thorn Hive would probe her mind with psychic tendrils. The Crothax would test her endurance with pain fields. And with each cycle she would learn more about their weaknesses, their alliances, their lies. And Kale would remember it all. But there was something else they did not understand, something deeper than strategy or secrets. Earth had not been hiding weapons. It had been hiding silence. A silence so complete it could swallow signals, erase data, blind sensors. A silence that did not destroy. It unmade. And that silence had a name. It had a shape. And it was waking up. Claire closed her eyes. Kale curled around her feet, warm and solid. The stars outside burned cold and distant. "Let them think they control me," she thought. "Let them pass me like a token between their hands. They do not know what they have awakened." And when the time came, they would beg. Not for her life, but for her mercy. But that time was not yet, for now she waited. And in the quiet dark, the dragon slept beside her, dreaming of fire that did not burn but erased. The Zenthari holding cell felt like a cage made of light. Its walls pulsed gently, breathing in time with the ship's core. Claire sat in the center, her back straight, her hands resting on her knees. She had not moved in hours. Outside, the stars drifted past the viewport like silent witnesses. But inside, something else moved. Kale lay coiled near her feet, its scales shifting from deep violet to charcoal gray as the ambient light changed. It did not sleep. It watched. Its golden eyes tracked every flicker in the room, every hum of energy in the walls. Though small, it carried a presence that bent the air around it like heat rising from stone. The Zenthari believed their ship was impenetrable. Their sensors could detect a single atom out of place. Their thought filters scanned for hidden intentions. Yet none of it touched Kale. The dragon existed just outside perception, in the gaps between signals, in the silence between thoughts. It was not invisible, it was irrelevant to their machines. And that made it more dangerous than any weapon. Claire reached down and stroked the ridge above Kale's eye. The creature leaned into her touch, a low vibration humming through its body. She did not speak aloud. She did not need to. They had long since learned to understand each other without words. "You remember Mars," she thought. Kale's eyes narrowed slightly. Yes. The memory came unbidden, the red dust storm howling over the domes of New Ares colony, the alarms blaring as the Crothax fleet broke orbit, the panic in the corridors as civilians ran for the evacuation tunnels, and Claire, standing alone in the command center watching the feed from the deep ice lab beneath the polar cap. That was where they had first awakened Kale. Not by design, but by accident. A drill had pierced a sealed chamber older than human civilization. Inside, suspended in amber fluid, was the dragon. It had opened its eyes the moment the seal broke, and it had looked straight at her through the camera feed as if it had been waiting. Now, aboard an alien ship light years from home, that same creature lay at her feet, calm and watchful. It had followed her through fire and void, never asking why, never demanding more than her presence. A chime echoed through the chamber. The door irised open without warning. 2 Xanthari guards entered, their crystalline limbs clicking softly. Behind them floated a third figure, taller, with plates of opal woven into its chest. This was Elder Nira, one of the few Xanthari who had once spoken with Claire during the early peace talks. "You will be transferred soon," Elder Nira said. "The Varelians request their cycle early. They claim urgency." Claire stood slowly. She did not ask why. She already knew. The Varelians were paranoid. They believed Earth had planted listening devices in their embassy during the last summit. They would want to interrogate her themselves. "I am ready," she said. The guard stepped aside. Elder Nira studied her, its facets catching the light like prisms. "You show no fear, human." "Why, because fear is a signal," she replied, "and I have learned to stop sending them." The elder did not respond. It simply gestured for her to follow. As Claire walked past, Kale melted into the shadows behind a support column. Unseen, unheard, it would not board the transfer shuttle with her. Not yet. It would wait, then slip aboard when the sensors blinked during jump alignment. It had done it before. The shuttle was small and angular, built for speed, not comfort. Claire was strapped into a restraint chair, her wrists bound with soft polymer cuffs that would tighten if she moved too quickly. The Varelian pilot sat in the front, its feathered back rigid, its crest half raised in tension. They launched without ceremony. The Xanthari ship shrank behind them, then vanished as the shuttle punched into fold space. The journey would take 6 hours. 6 hours of silence, of vibration, of waiting. But Claire was not alone. 3 hours in, as the shuttle coasted through the quiet between folds, a shadow detached itself from the ceiling vent. Kale dropped soundlessly onto the floor behind the pilot's seat. It did not growl. It did not hiss. It simply watched. Claire kept her eyes forward. She knew what was coming. The Varelians did not believe in gentle questioning. They believed in pressure, in pain, in breaking the mind until truth spilled out like water from a cracked bowl. Their interrogation chambers were lined with neural filaments that could read memories directly from the brain. Many prisoners went insane and came out hollow. But Claire was not afraid, because she knew something the Varelians did not. Kyle was not just a companion, it was a key. Deep beneath Antarctica, in the ruins older than humanity, Earth scientists had found more than just the dragon. They had found records, not written in ink or code, but in patterns of light and resonance. The records spoke of a time before the current galaxy, a time when beings shaped reality with thought, and silence was the highest form of power. Kale was part of that legacy, and Claire, through months of quiet communion, had begun to understand it. The shuttle dropped out of fold space near the Varelian dreadnought, a massive vessel shaped like a thorn spine. Docking clamps latched onto the hull with a metallic groan. The pilot unstrapped and turned to Claire, its eyes sharp and cold. "Stand human," it said. She stood. The cuffs remained. The door opened. The Varelian chamber was exactly as she expected. Dark, angular, filled with humming machinery. The walls were lined with filament clusters that pulsed faintly like veins. In the center stood a chair, wired with sensors and restraints. Sit, she sat. The restraints locked around her wrists, ankles, and temples. A thin needle extended from the headrest and pressed against her neck. It would inject a neural tracer, mapping her thoughts in real time. The lead interrogator entered. It was larger than the others, its crest fully flared, its eyes black and depthless. "We know you lied about Europa," it said. "We know you hid the Black Vault. Tell us what is inside, or we will take it from your mind piece by piece." Claire closed her eyes. She did not resist. She let the tracer enter her mind. For a moment, the interrogator saw only surface thoughts. Memories of Earth, of cities, of oceans. Then it pushed deeper and found nothing, not emptiness, not blankness, but absence. As if her mind had folded in on itself, hiding everything behind layers of silence. The interrogator frowned. It increased the signal, still nothing. Frustrated, it activated the pain inducer. A sharp jolt ran through Claire's nerves. She gasped but did not cry out. Her breathing remained steady. Then from the shadows near the ceiling vent, Kale moved. It did not attack. It simply exhaled. A soft ripple passed through the air, invisible, soundless. The filament clusters on the walls flickered. The machine stuttered. The neural tracer shorted out with a pop. The lights dimmed for half a second. The interrogator spun around. "What was that nothing?" the guard said. "The sensors show no intrusion." But the interrogator was not convinced. It looked back at Claire. Her eyes were open now, calm, knowing. "You brought something with you," it whispered. Claire smiled faintly. "I always do." That night, while she was locked in her cell aboard the dreadnought, Cale appeared again. It had slipped through the ventilation shafts, avoiding every motion sensor, every thermal scan. It curled beside her on the floor, its warmth a comfort in the cold metal room. "They will try again tomorrow," she said. Cale blinked slowly. "Let them." She leaned back against the wall. "You are more than a weapon, you know. You are a memory, a bridge. Earth did not wake you to fight. It woke you to remember." Cale rested its head on her knee. "And you are more than a diplomat. You are the keeper of silence." Outside, the stars burned cold and distant, but inside something ancient stirred. The Varelians would learn soon enough. You cannot interrogate silence. You cannot break what does not speak. And you cannot control what you cannot see. Claire closed her eyes. Cale watched the door. The war had not begun yet, but the first cracks were already forming. And in the quiet dark, the dragon waited. The Varelian dreadnought hung in orbit above their homeworld, a jagged spine of black alloy bristling with weapons. Inside, tension coiled like a spring. Claire had been in their custody for 2 cycles, and still they had learned nothing. Every interrogation failed. Every scan came back empty. Even their deepest neural probes found only silence where thoughts should be. It unnerved them. Worse, it angered them. On the 3rd morning, the lead interrogator stormed into her cell without warning. Its crest was fully flared, its eyes burning with frustration. "You are hiding something," it hissed. "Something big. We can feel it." Claire sat on the floor, her back against the wall. Cale invisible in the corner. She looked up calmly. "You feel your own fear," she said. "Do not blame me for it." The interrogator lunged forward, claws extended, but before it could touch her, the lights flickered. The air grew heavy. A low hum filled the room, not loud but deep, vibrating in the bones. The interrogator froze. Its crest drooped slightly. "What is that?" Claire did not answer. She knew what it was. Cale had begun to resonate. The dragon did not roar. It did not need to. Its presence alone disrupted the delicate balance of the ship's systems. Varelian tech relied on precise harmonic frequencies. Communication, navigation, even life support all ran on tuned vibrations. And Cale, ancient and alien, emitted a counter-frequency that unraveled them. Alarms blared in the corridor. Red lights pulsed. The interrogator spun and ran, shouting orders. Claire stood slowly. She walked to the viewport. Outside, the stars seemed to dim. Not because they faded, but because something was passing between them. Something vast and quiet. Then the comms died, not just on the ship, across the entire system. Every Varelian vessel went dark. Every relay station fell silent. Even the orbital defense grid blinked out like candles in a storm. Panic spread fast. In the council chamber of the Galactic Concord, the other species watched in horror as the Varelian feed cut to static. The Xanthari elder stood. The Thornhive queen clicked her mandibles in alarm. The Krothex warlord slammed a fist on the table. What is happening? No one knew. But Claire did. She turned from the viewport as the cell door unlocked automatically. Power rerouting in emergency mode. Cale appeared at her side, its scales now a deep obsidian, its eyes glowing faintly gold. "They think it is an attack," she said softly. "But it is not. It is a message." Earth had not built weapons. It had learned silence. And silence, when shaped correctly, could erase signals, blind sensors, and collapse networks. The black vault beneath Antarctica was not a weapon cache. It was a library of absence. And Cale was its voice. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the dreadnought, the Varelian captain struggled to regain control. Nothing responded. Not engines. Not weapons. Not even internal lights. The crew shouted, confused, terrified. Then one of them pointed out the main viewer. In the void, a shape formed, not a ship, not a creature. Just a patch of darkness where stars should be. It did not move. It simply existed, and as it did, more systems failed. The captain turned to his science officer. "What is it?" The officer stared at his dead console. "It is not emitting anything. No energy, no mass, no signal. It is nothing, and that is why it wins." Back in her cell, Claire heard footsteps. Not guards. Not soldiers. The Varelian High Envoy himself, robes torn, eyes wide with fear. "Human," he said, voice shaking. "What have you done?" "Nothing," she replied. "I only showed you what you refused to see. You brought this upon us, no. You did. When you voted to control me, you showed your true fear. Not of Earth, but of the unknown. And now the unknown has come calling." The envoy fell to his knees. "Please, tell it to stop." Claire looked at Kale. The dragon tilted its head, as if listening to something far away. "It is not mine to command," she said. "It answers to silence, and silence does not bargain." At that moment, across the galaxy, other species began to notice. The Zenthari ship lost contact with its outer sensors. The Thornhive's psychic network went quiet. The Crothax battle stations reported phantom shadows in their corridors. Even the gentle Lumari floating in their garden ships felt a chill in their light. Something was spreading, not through space, through silence, and it was heading toward the Concord. On the council station, panic turned to chaos. Delegates shouted over each other. Some demanded immediate military response. Others called for surrender. The High Arbiter tried to restore order, but its voice was drowned out by fear. Then the station lights dimmed, not all at once, section by section, like a wave of darkness rolling through the ring. Comms failed. Gravity fluctuated, doors sealed randomly, and in the central chamber, the stars outside the viewports began to vanish one by one. Claire was not there, but they all knew who to blame, or rather, who to beg. The Varelian envoy crawled toward her. "You must stop it. You are the only one who can." "I am not its master," she said. "I am its witness, but you speak its language. I listen. That is all." Kale stepped forward then, fully visible for the first time. The envoy gasped. The dragon was no longer small. It had grown, its wings stretching nearly to the ceiling, its body radiating a quiet power that made the metal walls hum. The envoy backed away. "What is it, a memory?" she said. "Older than your species, older than your stars. Earth did not create it. We only woke it, and now it walks." Outside, the last star in view blinked out. Total darkness filled the viewport. Not the darkness of night, but the darkness of erasure, as if reality itself had been paused. In that silence, Claire spoke again. "You wanted to control me because you thought I held power, but power is loud. This is not power. This is absence. And absence cannot be controlled, only respected." The envoy bowed his head. Then he whispered the words no Varelian had ever spoken to a human. "We ask for your mercy." Claire looked at Kale. The dragon's eyes glowed brighter for a moment. Then slowly the stars returned, one by one. The lights flickered back on. The hum of the ship resumed. The silence had passed, for now. But everyone knew it could return, and next time, it might not leave. Claire walked out of the cell, the envoy following like a shadow. Kale stayed beside her, no longer hidden. No one tried to stop them. No one dared. The war had not been fought with guns or ships. It had been fought with silence. And silence had already won. The galaxy would never be the same. And Claire Voss, the human diplomat they had tried to chain, now walked free. Not as a prisoner, but as the only one who understood what came next. After the silence passed, the galaxy did not return to normal. It could not. The stars still shone, the ships still flew, the markets still traded, but something had shifted in the air, in the data streams, in the quiet spaces between thoughts. Fear had taken root, and it grew fast. First came the Thornhive. Their queen arrived aboard a vessel shaped like a blooming flower of black chitin, its petals lined with living sensors. She did not send envoys. She came herself. Her carapace, usually sealed and gleaming, was cracked open along the chest, a sign of utter submission. Inside, her soft underflesh pulsed with bioluminescent patterns of apology. She landed her ship not at the main dock, but at the outer service ring, as if unworthy of the central bay. She walked alone through the corridors of the Concord station, her many legs clicking softly against the floor. Guards watched but did not stop her. They knew why she had come. She found Claire in the observation lounge, standing before a wide viewport. Kale coiled at her feet like a living shadow. The dragon's eyes followed the queen's approach, unblinking. "You showed us the edge of nothing," the queen said, her voice a chorus of whispers from the vents in her thorax. "We thought silence was empty, but it is full. Full of what we cannot name." Claire did not turn. "You used psychic threads to scan my mind during your cycle. You believed thoughts were the only truth. We were wrong. Thoughts are noise. Silence is clarity. The Queen lowered her head until her antennae brushed the floor. We offer our neural crown. Take it. Read us. Command us. Only ask the silence to spare our brood nests. Claire finally looked at her. I do not want your crown. I do not want your obedience. I want your understanding. The Queen trembled. We are trying. Kale shifted slightly, its scales rippling like water under moonlight. The Queen flinched but did not retreat. She had felt the silence. She knew better than to run. Next came the Xanthari elders. They arrived not in their usual crystalline ships, but in a single vessel of dull gray alloy. No light, no resonance, no song. They had muted themselves in respect. Their leader, Elder Naira, stepped onto the station with its opal plates dulled, its voice modulator set to the lowest frequency. We have silenced our harmonics, Elder Naira said. We no longer broadcast, we only listen. Good, Claire said. We thought beauty was in sound, but now we see beauty in stillness. Kale lifted its head. The elders bowed as one, their crystal limbs chiming faintly, not in music but in humility. Then came the Crothax. The warlike species that once called humans soft vermin, now sent their highest warlord in an unshielded shuttle. No weapons, no armor, just a single warrior in a plain tunic, his exoskeleton scarred from 100 battles. He walked the length of the station on foot, ignoring the stares, the whispers, the fear. He stopped 10 paces from Claire and knelt. His claws scraped the floor. We were loud, he said. We thought strength was noise. We were wrong. Claire studied him. You once said my species would break under pressure, and you did not break. You vanished. Like smoke. Like shadow. Like silence. Kale let out a soft breath. The warlord did not flinch. He kept his eyes down. We offer our fleet, our warriors, our lives, not as slaves, as shields. If the silence returns, let us stand before it. Let us learn to be quiet too. Claire said nothing for a long time. Then she nodded once. That was enough. One by one, the species that had voted to control her now came begging. The Lumari sent seed pods filled with memory vines that bloomed only in stillness. The Varelians dismantled their neural interrogation chambers and sent the parts as offerings. Even the reclusive Orathi, who had not spoken to outsiders in centuries, transmitted a single pulse, a frequency of pure quiet, directed only to Claire's quarters. She accepted none of their gifts. She did not refuse them either. She simply let them stand in her presence, let them feel the weight of what they had awakened. Kale watched them all. It no longer hid. It walked beside Claire openly, its presence a quiet reminder that the silence had teeth and wings. The Concord Council tried to reconvene, but no one sat in their usual seats. They gathered in a circle around Claire instead, as if she were the center of gravity now. The High Arbiter spoke first. We were wrong to vote as we did. We acted from fear, not wisdom. Claire looked at each of them in turn. You did not fear me. You feared what you could not control, and you were right to fear it. Because it is not mine to control either. Then what is it, the Arbiter asked. A boundary, she said. Earth did not create the silence. We only found it sleeping beneath the ice. It is older than your empires, older than your wars. It is the space between stars, the pause between breaths, the moment before creation. And it does not serve anyone, it simply is. The Thornhive Queen clicked softly. Then why did it answer you? Because I listened. Not to speak over it, not to use it. Just to hear it. Kale stepped forward and sat beside her, its tail curling around her feet. The council members leaned back slightly, not in fear but in awe. We do not understand, the Arbiter admitted. You do not need to understand, she said. You only need to respect it, and stop treating silence as emptiness. It is not empty. It is full of what comes next. As if on cue, the station's comms flickered, not with noise but with a single clean signal from deep space. It was not a message. It was a question. A presence vast and ancient stirring beyond the Orion spur. Everyone felt it, even those without sensors. It was not sound, not light, just a knowing. Something was coming, something that had heard the silence and was curious. The council froze. Claire turned to the viewport. Kale's eyes glowed brighter. They all looked at her, not as a prisoner, not as a diplomat, but as the only one who stood between them and the unknown. What do we do? the warlord asked. Nothing, she said. We wait, and we stay quiet. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy held its breath, and in that stillness Claire Voss stood tall, the dragon at her side, the silence in her bones. She had not asked for this role, but she would not turn from it, because mercy was not about forgiveness. It was about choice, and she had not yet decided what to do with theirs. He signaled from beyond. Orion did not grow louder. It did not pulse or flash or demand attention. It simply existed like a stone dropped into a still pond, ripples spreading not through sound but through absence. Every species felt it in their own way. The thorn hive sensed a gap in their psychic web. The Xanthari heard a silence between their harmonics. The Crothax felt their weapons grow cold, as if the very idea of violence had been paused, and all of them turned to Claire. She stood on the outer observation deck of the Concord station, the void stretching endlessly before her. Kale sat beside her, wings folded, eyes fixed on the same point in the dark where the stars seemed thinner, as if something vast was standing just behind them. The dragon did not growl. It did not tense. It simply waited, as if it had known this moment would come since the day it first opened its eyes beneath Antarctic ice. Behind them, the council gathered in silence. No one spoke. No one moved. They had shed their titles, their armor, their pride. They stood not as rulers but as witnesses. The entity did not arrive in a ship. It did not tear through space with fire or light. One moment the stars were there. The next a patch of darkness bloomed, not black but blank, as if that part of reality had been gently erased and left empty. It had no shape, no edge, no voice, yet it spoke not in words, not in thoughts, but in knowing. You woke the silence, it said, and the silence called me. Claire did not flinch. She had expected this. Earth scientists had theorized it long ago. Beneath the vault, in the oldest layer of the archive, there were references to watchers, beings that existed outside the rhythm of creation, drawn not to noise but to stillness. They were not gods, not monsters, just echoes of what came before everything. And now one had come. Why, she asked. Because you chose not to use the silence as a weapon. You let it breathe. That is rare. Kale shifted slightly, its scales shimmering like distant galaxies. The entity seemed to notice it for the first time. The keeper. It lives. Kale is more than a keeper, Claire said. It is a bridge between what was and what could be. The blank space pulsed faintly. Then it turned its attention to the council behind her. They feared you. They tried to chain you, yet you did not unleash the silence upon them. Why? Because mercy is not weakness, she said. It is the hardest choice. And the most human. A long pause followed. Not of time, but of presence. The entity considered her words. Then it spoke again. They beg for your protection now. But will they remember when the fear fades? Claire looked at the council. The Thornhive Queen, her carapace still open. The Crothax warlord unarmed. The Xanthari elders, their crystals muted. They met her gaze not with demand but with hope. I do not protect them, she said. I show them a path. Whether they walk it is their choice. Wise, the entity said. But wisdom is fragile. Then let them learn to carry it. The blank space shifted. The stars around it dimmed further. The council held their breath. Even Kale's hum softened to nothing. The entity was deciding, not whether to destroy them, but whether to leave them be. You may stand between us and them, the entity said at last, but only if you remain true. If you ever use the silence to dominate, to erase for power, I will return. And I will not speak? Claire bowed her head. I understand. The blank space began to fade. The stars returned one by one as if being redrawn. The pressure in the air lifted. The silence did not vanish, it simply settled like dust after a storm. The entity was gone. But its warning remained. The council did not cheer. They did not speak. They simply knelt, not to Claire, but to the silence she carried. She turned to them then. Her voice was quiet but clear. You wanted to control me because you thought power was something to be held. But real power is knowing when not to use it. The silence is not mine. It never was. It belongs to everyone who learns to listen. The Thornhive Queen rose first. We will build quiet chambers in every hive. Not for hiding. For listening. The Crothax warlord nodded. Our warriors will train in stillness. Not just strength. The Xanthari elder chimed softly. We will compose songs with pauses. So the silence has room to breathe. Claire looked at Kale. The dragon stood and stretched its wings wide, dark, and full of starlight. It did not roar. It did not need to. Its presence was enough. "You think this is the end?" she said to the council. "But it is only the beginning. The silence is not a shield. It is a mirror, and it will show you who you truly are." Then she walked away, Kale at her side, down the long corridor toward the human shuttle waiting at Bay 7. No one tried to stop her. No one asked her to stay. They knew she was not leaving them. She was giving them space to grow. As the shuttle lifted off, the Concorde station watched in silence. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of respect. And far beyond, in the deep dark between galaxies, something ancient turned its attention elsewhere. Satisfied. For now, Claire sat in the pilot's seat, her hands resting lightly on the controls. Kale curled in the co-pilot's chair, its eyes half closed, content. Earth awaited. Not with fanfare, not with victory parades, but with quiet readiness, because the war had never been about weapons or fleets or treaties. It had been about understanding, and humanity alone among all species had learned that the loudest thing in the universe was not a scream, but the choice to stay silent. And in that silence, mercy lived.